High above Memorial Stadium, Doug Maurice, Ari Wasserman, Bill Landis after Ohio State's, what was it?
34-27.
34-27 win over Indiana on Saturday. The Buckeyes 5-0, 1-0 in Big Ten play, but there was a pass thrown into the end zone on the last play of the game. Anything could have happened. So Bill Landis, that team that you just watched, was that the #1 team in the country?
I'm going to say no. I think, and it's early, but to be the #1 team, or to merit being the #1 team, I think you need to look dominant. And Ohio State, I don't think at any point this season has looked dominant. They've had some big plays. Certainly they've had more talent than everybody they've played. They looked good against Virginia Tech, but the last 4 weeks, I mean, 2 of those 4 weeks, they were in a position where they could have lost the game to teams they shouldn't be in that position against. So I would say no. Ohio State's the #1 team right now, just based off what I've seen with them.
You know, when did this team look best? If we can go back in the Wayback Machine a little bit, like if you're trying to think of like when you watched this Ohio State team through 5 games and thought they look good.
All through the first 5 games.
When was that? Was it the second half against Virginia Tech?
Are we talking like just our time on the beat?
No. I'm talking about this year. Was there a time in the 5 games this year when you thought, yes, that's the #1 team in the country. They look awesome?
I thought it was the first half of the Virginia Tech game, for the majority of the first half, before Virginia Tech went on that little run.
And led at halftime.
When they led at halftime. But, like, the way that Ohio State came out, they scored 14 points right away, and kind of they had the 85-yard touchdown run from Zeke, the touchdown pass from Cardale on the first drive. It just seemed like they picked up right where they left off in the first quarter, at least, of the first game.
They were hitting those big plays in that game, and I feel like the times when they haven't been like grinding it out, marching down the field, you've thought, well, if they hit some big plays, then okay. And that's actually what happened against Indiana, because Ezekiel Elliott just started running with the ball. So was that enough? The way Ezekiel Elliott dominated with those runs in the second half, was that enough for them to be the #1 team in the country?
I don't think that Ohio State on their own merit deserves to be considered #1, but I think I'm going to keep them there because I've watched a lot of college football and I'm not sure which team has. Yeah. So right now they're the defending national champion. They won another game. Their running back rushed for almost 300 yards and they're 5-0, right? So at this point I think they're #1 by default. I don't know if they've actually earned it, but I still think they're the #1 team in the country.
You know, I had a #4 in my AP ballot last week. I would say I don't think they're #1, but I think Ari makes a good point. You know, this is happening. This is happening. You know, like Alabama looked dominant on Saturday, but Alabama has a loss already. So, I mean, you know, there's something to be said for winning, but I think you take some of that away when the other team's throwing the ball in the end zone on the last play of the game to try to tie it, maybe go for 2 to win.
My only point is that if you're going to take Ohio State out of the top spot for not looking as good, then the other teams that don't look as good also need to be held accountable for that. And right now, there isn't a team through 4 or 5 games that has said, hey, we are better than our opposition without question the entire game. And Ohio State's had its moments. I think that it had its moments against Indiana, and it certainly did against Virginia Tech, and it hasn't been pretty. But right now, they've put themselves in a situation where they could lose the top spot, but nobody's taking it from them.
That's some pretty good nuanced opinion there, Ari. And we were talking about, there are times this season when we were talking about, could we see a #1, #2 matchup between Ohio State and Michigan State on November 21st, and the state of Indiana almost wiped that out on Saturday because Purdue gave Michigan State everything the Spartans could handle, and then we saw what happened here in Bloomington. So I think it's hard. It's a little bit hard for me to say a win is a win is a win, when if the ball bounces off someone's hands differently in the end zone, who knows what we'll be talking about right now. But 5-0, they're 5-0. Urban Meyer, we know, is saying that he's trying very hard to appreciate the wins, and they're 5-0. He's Bill, he's Ari. Look at this. Look how cool that is. It's Indiana. We're in Bloomington. Stick with us at cleveland.com. Stories, videos, all kinds of stuff. Thanks as always for watching and for reading.